Visualize your white blood cells as radiant guardians moving through your bloodstream with precise intelligence. Picture your body as a secure city where no threat can enter without being neutralized by the light of your consciousness. This mental image strengthens your subconscious with a sense of invulnerability. Never underestimate the power of emotion. Persistent stress, unresolved anger, and chronic resentment are major contributors to illness. Cultivating emotional balance is the most effective form of preventive medicine. Learn to forgive promptly. Release what is beyond your control and bring laughter into your daily life. Laughter is more than mere amusement. It is vibrational medicine. It raises your energy, balances your glands, and renews your internal chemistry. Approach life with lightness, for your body thrives in harmony with the ease of your soul. Always remember this fundamental truth: health is your natural state. It does not require force, only permission. Your body is inherently designed to self-heal, regenerate, and flourish. Remove mental obstacles, and it will perform this function effortlessly. The intelligence that maintains the cosmos is the same intelligence that sustains every cell in your body. Trust it, align with it, and celebrate each day as an expression of this invisible power operating within you, with you, and for you. Thus, we conclude this exploration of the miraculous healing potential of the subconscious. Yet remember, books are only maps. The true transformation occurs when you internalize these truths and apply them consistently. Then you will witness that no illness is insurmountable, no diagnosis irreversible, and no body beyond restoration when in alignment with the universal law flowing through you. I bless your mind, your body, and your journey. Live now in perfect health as it was ordained from the very beginning. He doesn't understand exactly what has changed. He only senses that things no longer respond the same way. Your silence carries a different weight. Your boundaries no longer feel defensive. Your presence no longer gives itself as before. This forces him to pay attention, not to care for you, but to reposition himself. When a woman stops being negotiable without announcing it, a man encounters a new feeling. The dynamic he once assumed is no longer guaranteed. Joseph would say that at this moment, the shadow is triggered, the part of the psyche that reacts when emotional control is lost. It's not about dominance, but about access. He doesn't think, "I'm going to lose her." He thinks something deeper: "I no longer understand from what place I relate to her." Before, when Kreisel left, he lost a woman. Now, when she leaves, he loses a comfortable inner position. That creates more confusion than physical absence, because love can be replaced, but embodied dignity cannot. It's crucial to see this clearly. This transformation doesn't occur when you physically leave. It happens when you make 3 inner movements. You stop staying in spaces where your body tightens just to maintain the relationship. You stop explaining yourself to someone who isn't ready to hear you. You begin making small decisions aligned with yourself, even if the other person disagrees, not to provoke, but to honor your own integrity. When you do this, you don't become cold. You become clear. And clarity is profoundly intimidating to someone who had been comfortable in your emotional ambiguity. The man starts observing, timing words, reactions, not because you are manipulating, but because you stopped manipulating yourself to keep him. Here, his fantasy breaks. She is always present, and when that certainty disappears, his mind goes on high alert. This is not love yet, it's reorganization. No one values what feels unconditional, but they respect what has silent boundaries. This is the true beginning of psychological respect. Many women confuse dignity with hardness. It's not. Dignity is inner coherence maintained over time. Kreisel did not distance herself. She became whole, and that triggered a challenging question in him. What place do I hold now? You are no longer reactive, you are presence. You no longer chase, you choose. And this consistent choosing without words disarms any dynamic based on convenience. There is no punishment here, only structure, and structure commands more than any declaration of love. This step is silent but irreversible. Once your system learns it doesn't need tension to love, it can't go back. He senses it, even if he can't name it. He knows something has shifted. He can no longer depend on your emotional flexibility, which forces him to define himself, either to grow or to retreat. Both options stem from the same source: your return to yourself, not because of an external threat, but from inner integrity that no longer negotiates. Anchor this sentence: I do not need to leave to stop being negotiable. I need to return to myself. When you integrate this, the bond stops sustaining itself through inertia, and the masculine mind, when comfort is lost, begins to compare not with the old you, but with every other woman who doesn't embody this level of coherence. That is when something deeper emerges. Next, we reach a critical point. Why does your dignity command more respect than all the love you have given? Because, without noticing, he begins to measure what he had with you against what he can no longer obtain so easily. This is the moment when the inner game becomes irreversible, when you stop being a memory and become a reference. Step 2: why your dignity earns more respect than all the love you shared. It may hurt, but it also liberates. Love, when it lacks structure, becomes a landscape. It exists, it supports, but it does not impose order. What truly reshapes a person's mind is the inner framework from which you love. When you love without sacrificing yourself, without bending to fit, he can no longer rid you from a place of comfort. This quiet, steady change carries far more weight than any emotional promise you could ever make. A common misconception is that giving more love creates greater commitment. It doesn't, it creates habit. Dignity, on the other hand, introduces a new variable: consistency. Not punishment, not coldness, but coherence. Jung explained that the psyche respects form. When your inner boundaries are clear, the other person senses limits they cannot cross without transforming themselves, and that recognition sparks respect even before desire arises. He no longer possesses you emotionally, he must position himself in relation to you. An unconscious comparison takes place. He senses your current presence against the past version of you that always adapted. Your calm replaces the old waiting. This contrast causes inattention because previously your love was guaranteed. Now access is uncertain, and when access is no longer assured, the male mind moves into evaluation, not romantically, but strategically. Do I rise to this, or do I lose my place? This marks a before and after. Many women misinterpret this as manipulation. It is not. Manipulation involves changing yourself to provoke a reaction. Here, you are changing in alignment with yourself, not for him. Your energy no longer pushes, demands, or adapts, it simply exists. This steady presence, without effort, disarms more effectively than any speech, because he can no longer rely on your emotional flexibility. Now he must either grow or feel discomfort until he leaves. In counseling, this moment often appears in statements like, "I don't know what's happening to me. I feel her differently. It used to be easier." Easy is not love, it is access without consequence. When that is gone, something new emerges: genuine attention. Not always mature, not always healthy, but attention nonetheless, because your dignity awakened his system. Not through fear of losing you physically, but from sensing the potential loss of an inner place that provided safety effortlessly. This is when many women doubt and step back. As he approaches differently, measures his behavior, and shows greater attentiveness, the temptation arises to give in again. And this is decisive. If dignity is treated as a strategy, it collapses. If it is sustained as identity, it solidifies. Jung would describe this as the moment when the bond stops being projection and becomes conscious choice. Not everyone is ready to choose from that place. Your dignity does not ensure that he stays, it guarantees something more essential, that you do not lose yourself. Paradoxically, this is what has the greatest impact. You move not out of fear of losing him, but out of respect for your inner axis. This emotional autonomy shifts the balance. He no longer evaluates. He must now determine whether he can rise to your level of coherence without your announcement. Respect arises not from sacrifice, but from boundaries. Not from drama, but from sustained calm. When you respond from clarity instead of hurt, he can no longer operate as he did before. This discomfort can awaken him. Dignity does not seduce like attachment, but it leaves a lasting trace. A trace that is not easily erased, even when the relationship ends. You become an inner reference, not merely a romantic memory. It is important to see this clearly, without idealizing. Some men rise to the challenge, others retreat. Both outcomes are consistent. What changes is that you no longer negotiate your center to retain someone. When your love comes from this place, it ceases to be a constant offering and becomes a shared choice. That is the difference between being desired and being respected. The male mind, even if it won't admit it, always recognizes when it faces the latter. In the next step, we enter an even more delicate phase. What happens when he begins to feel fear, not of losing you, but of not being enough to keep you? Contradictory behaviors emerge, approaches and retreats, subtle, silent tests. And if you miss this point, you might mistake intensity for love. But when you truly understand it, you remain steady while the dynamic shifts completely from within. Step 3 begins when respect starts to turn into silent fear, not the childish fear of losing you, but the adult fear of not being enough. Here, the male mind enters a contradiction. He wants to approach, yet fears exposing himself. He seeks you and then pulls back, not as a game, but because his identity is being reorganized. Your dignity forces him to confront himself without the safety net of your availability, triggering inner fear. Even if he appears calm or distant outwardly, this fear rarely shows up in words. It emerges ambiguity, lukewarm messages, intense gestures followed by long silences. He tests whether you are still present, but from a different place. And when he notices you no longer react as before, when you don't chase or complain, the unease grows, because he can no longer regulate himself through your emotions. Jung would describe this as a collision with the true self, stripped of masks. Many women misinterpret this moment, confusing intensity for progress, thinking intermittent closeness signals awakened love. But often, it's just a system attempting to regain control. Your role is not to decipher it, but to maintain yourself. When you resist moving out of fear, when you don't fill the empty spaces, he confronts something entirely new, his own emptiness. This encounter can either transform him or drive him away. What matters most is this: stay calm. Your dignity doesn't rush processes, it reveals them. When he approaches from presence, you feel it. When he approaches from fear, you feel that too. The difference lies in stability. Love born from fear seeks constant proof. Love born from respect seeks coherence. By holding your center, you naturally filter between the two without a single word. At this stage, the dynamic reverses. Before, you measured time, words, and gestures. Now it's him. He watches to see if you remain available, if something softens, if you start to adapt. When you don't, an uncomfortable but revealing sensation emerges. He no longer has you secured, not because you're leaving, but because you are no longer dependent. This emotional independence profoundly reshapes his perception of your value. Jung said authentic desire arises when the other cannot be possessed, only found. Your dignity removes you from the position of emotional object and restores you as subject. You are no longer always there, you choose to be there. This subtle shift transforms the bond completely. He now relates not to your devotion, but to your conscious presence. This is a delicate stage for you too. When he shows fear or confusion, it can trigger your old instinct to soothe, explain, or hold. This moment determines whether your dignity is identity or strategy. If you reignite the bond from old patterns, the system returns to familiarity. If you hold your ground, something new emerges, not from coldness, but from inner coherence. This coherence demands a clearer stance from him. Some men rise here, becoming more present and emotionally responsible. Others pull away, not because you failed, but because the standard has risen. And dignity does not compromise. You do not push or threaten. You simply maintain your height. This redefines the bond without confrontation, because real respect is not imposed, it is embodied. And once embodied, it cannot be ignored. Notice this when he begins to change. It is not because you persuaded him. It is because your integrity confronted him with himself. And when he does not change, that is not failure, it is information. Your dignity spares you years of confusion. It reveals who can meet you at your level and who could only love you when you made yourself smaller. This clarity may hurt at first, but it liberates over time. The next step is the point of no return. When he realizes he can no longer return to the version of you that bent, a decisive inner choice arises. It may not always be conscious, but it is pivotal. How you hold yourself here can either deeply transform him or conclude the connection with an elegance that was never possible before. Step 4. The moment he realizes there is no turning back, the version of you who waited, adapted, or compromised to maintain the bond is gone. This clarity does not come from conversation, it emerges as an irreversible inner certainty. He can no longer elicit the same reactions from you. He cannot rely on your emotional availability. Something has shifted not out of resentment, but out of alignment with yourself. At this point, his mind stops testing and starts making decisions from a deeper place. A quiet grief arises, not for your physical absence, but for the loss of a dynamic that once gave him effortless security. This pain runs deeper than expected because facing a woman who no longer shrinks forces him to confront his own limits. Jung called this the death of a projection. You are no longer carrying his emptiness. Once the projection dissolves, only two paths remain: to mature or to withdraw emotionally. If he chooses to stay, his perception of you changes. It is no longer about comfort, but conscious respect. He begins to regulate himself, take emotional responsibility, and measure what he offers, not out of fear of losing you, but because he understands that he cannot keep you at the same level as before. Your dignity elevated the standard without demanding it. This transformation redefines the bond. You are no longer a refuge, you are an encounter, and not everyone knows how to love from that place. If he chooses to leave, the closure is also distinct. There is no ongoing drama or endless back and forth. There is a clear inner boundary. You do not chase explanations or try to convince. And that leaves an indelible mark. Even in leaving, he carries a reference he cannot erase. A woman who never compromised her axis for love. That image resurfaces later when other dynamics no longer surface. This is crucial for you because this is where doubt often arises. Was I too firm? You were coherent, and coherence is never too much. Love that survives only when you shrink is not true love, it is dependence. Your dignity did not destroy anything valuable. It merely revealed what could not sustain itself at your level. And though letting go hurts, something inside you begins to rest. There is no constant tension, no silent self-betrayal. Jung would say this is where true individuation begins. You no longer define yourself by being chosen. You define yourself by choosing yourself. This shift transforms all future relationships. You now love from presence, not from lack. You are not trying to prove yourself. You already are enough. This energy changes how others approach you, not through demand, but through recognition. Your dignity becomes a natural filter. This step marks a definitive before and after. Whether he returns or not is irrelevant. You will never return to the version of yourself who waited for crumbs. And that is the real victory. You no longer require intensity to feel value, nor promises to stay grounded. Your calm becomes home, and only someone capable of inhabiting it without trying to disrupt it can enter. Many men remember this type of woman, not with romantic nostalgia, but with delayed respect, because she demonstrated the boundary they could not cross. This boundary did not close them off, it confronted them with themselves. You did not teach through words, you taught through embodiment. And that is what remains when everything else fades. Breathe here. This is not rigidity, it is calm. You no longer hold the unholdable or reshape yourself to be loved. Your dignity did not isolate you, it ordered you. When you are aligned within, the world responds differently, not always quickly or easily, but more truthfully. In the next and final step, we close the circle. What happens when dignity becomes your identity, not a reaction to a specific story? How does this rewrite the way you love and allow yourself to be chosen? Where your self-definition is no longer tied to who stays, but to what you will never allow again. This is where love stops hurting and begins to feel genuine. Step 5, when you integrate dignity as identity, not as a response to a wound. You act from presence rather than the past. Your decisions no longer aim to make an impact, they seek coherence, and that coherence is immediately noticeable. Your yes carries weight and your no rests with ease. There's no rush to define yourself because your essence is already defined from within. This inner stability changes how others perceive you. There are no emotional gaps for anyone to exploit or question your worth. Love stops being a constant test. You no longer rely on signs to feel secure. Your body aligns with your boundaries, your words match your actions, and this rare congruence becomes magnetic, not through seduction, but through clarity. Those who resonate with it approach naturally, and those who cannot respect it quietly step back. Dignity does not argue, it organizes the space around you. Something subtle shifts, you stop clinging to vague promises or intensity without purpose. Your system distinguishes between true presence and mere performance, saving time, energy, and illusions. You don't become demanding, you become precise. Emotional precision is a language understood only by those willing to connect without games. The rest naturally falls away. Jung described integration as stopping the fragmentation we create to please others. That is exactly what you are doing here. You no longer separate what you feel from what you allow. You no longer compromise your intuition to maintain a bond. And when someone crosses a boundary, your body responds before words, without anger, only elegant withdrawal. This protects your heart rather than closing it. Many notice they no longer attract the same types of people. That's because you no longer signal from a place of lack. Your dignity shifts your frequency. You attract those who can carry themselves, not those who need to be carried. This may reduce quantity, but it increases quality. Less noise, more truth. Less fear, more choice. Your love life doesn't simplify because you love less, it simplifies because you love yourself more. Memories of the past lose power, not because they were unimportant, but because you are now the center. From this place, the past reorganizes without bitterness. You are grateful for the lessons and move forward. Inner closures replace open accounts. True liberation isn't when someone returns or seeks forgiveness. It's when you no longer need them for peace. This shift shows even in silence. You no longer explain your boundaries or justify your choices. You act in coherence. That coherence becomes your normal. Those who arrive too late feel it. There is no blame, only natural distance. Dignity doesn't build walls, it sets thresholds. Only those who respect them may enter. Looking back, you realize you haven't lost love. You've gained structure. That structure is the foundation of every healthy relationship. Without it, love overflows and causes pain. With it, love holds itself and grows. Jung would call this the moment when bonds stop being compensatory and become real encounters. Two emotionally mature people choosing each other, not needing each other. The legacy of your dignity is not to change others, but to elevate yourself. You step out of being a constant option and into conscious choice. From here, everything reorganizes: relationships, energy, decisions. You no longer chase, you attract presence. You no longer fear loss, you trust your ability to choose well. As you close this cycle, remember, dignity doesn't distance you from love, it guides you to the right kind. It doesn't make you unreachable, it makes you authentic. When you are authentic, love stops being a battle and becomes home. You no longer seek to be chosen, you choose yourself. Step 6. When everything reconfigures from within, you act from identity, not reaction. Dignity becomes your natural way of being. You no longer wonder what to do to keep someone. You ask whether a bond honors who you are now. This quiet question guides every decision. There is no urgency, no fear, only steady calm. A profound transformation occurs. Your nervous system learns that love doesn't need to hurt to be real. You stop confusing intensity with connection, or sacrifice with commitment. Your body recognizes what is healthy. This inner intelligence eliminates endless explanations. Cycles are closed through coherence, not words. And this coherence is felt even in your silence, felt even when nothing is said. Many men never forget a woman like this, not because she was flawless, but because she was complete. She never compromised herself just to be chosen. She revealed, without words, what someone who respects herself truly looks like. Jung said that what is not integrated repeats itself, and you broke that cycle. In doing so, you became an inner reference point for anyone who knew you. Not everyone recognizes it immediately, but everyone remembers it. This is where love stops being a psychological game. There are no more tests, no strategies, no roles to play. There is presence. There is mutual choice. And even if there isn't, there is still peace, because your value no longer depends on being desired, but on staying true to yourself. This inner loyalty forms the foundation of any meaningful relationship. Without it, everything becomes a negotiation. With it, everything aligns naturally. Hear this gently: not everyone can love you at this level, and that is not a loss. It is a form of natural purification. Your dignity does not exclude, it filters. It allows only those in who can sustain a relationship without relying on your self-abandonment. And though this path becomes more selective, it also becomes lighter, less noise, less confusion, more truth. When you embrace this, you no longer look back with guilt, but with understanding. You see why you gave in, why you waited, why you adapted, and also why you cannot do that anymore. Not because you are harsh, but because you have grown. Growth requires releasing old versions of yourself. This too is self-love, one that does not need to prove itself, only to remain steady. Carl Jung spoke of individuation as the bravest human act, becoming who you truly are, even if it means losing bonds that existed only out of dependency. You have taken that path, and in doing so you transform how you love, choose, and allow yourself to be chosen. You no longer seek to complete yourself, you share from fullness. This is the kind of love that never wears out. If this message resonates with you, stay a moment longer, give a like, and subscribe. These small actions help this space grow with you. Share in the comments which part touched you most. When we share from truth, YouTube amplifies what we choose together. This reflection reaches only those ready to hear it. Remember this as you finish the video. Your dignity is not a barrier, it is a lighthouse. It doesn't repel love, it guides it. From now on, anyone who approaches you will do so knowing they cannot take you for granted, but can reach you through choice. That is the difference between a bond that consumes and one that endures. Today, you leave not with techniques, but with an embodied truth. You do not need to prove your worth or convince anyone to stay. Your presence, aligned and steady, says everything. As a final reminder, carry this sentence with you from now on. It defines your new space. I am the boundary that teaches how to love truthfully.